toga had disappeared amongst the lowest plebes, and greatly Augustus was shocked at that spectacle. It is a very curious fact in itself, especially as expounding the main cause of the civil wars. Mere poverty and the absence of bribery from Rome, whilst all popular competition for offices drooped, can alone explain this remarkable revolution of dress. In fact, except in war, the Roman never did anything at all but sun himself. Ut se applicaret was the final cause of peace in his opinion, in literal truth, that he might make an apricot of himself. The public rations at all times supported the poorest inhabitants of Rome if he were a citizen. Hence it was that Hadrian was so astonished with the spectacle of Alexandria. Civitas opulenta, fecunda, in qua nemo vivat otiosus. Here first he saw the spectacle of a vast city, second only to Rome, where every man had something to do. Padagrossi quad agnat habent sisi quad facienat ne chiragrici. Those with gout in the fingers. Apud eos otiosi vivant. No poor rates levied upon the rest of the world for the benefit of their own paupers were there distributed gratis. The prodigious spectacle, so it seemed to Hadrian, was exhibited in Alexandria, of all men earning their bread in the sweat of their brow. In Rome only, and at one time in some of the Grecian states, it was the very meaning of citizen that he could vote and be idle. In these circumstances, where the whole sum of life's duties amounted to voting, all the business a man could have was to attend the public assemblies, electioneering, or factios. These and any judicial trial, public or private, that might happen to interest him for the person concerned, or for the question, amused him through the morning, that is, from 8 till 1. He might also extract some diversion from the columnae, or pillars of certain porticos to which they pasted advertisements. These affiches might have been numerous, for all the girls in Rome who lost a trinket or a pet bird or a lap dog took this mode of angling in the great ocean of the public for the missing article. But all this time we take for granted that there were no shows in a course of exhibition, either the dreadful ones of the amphitheater or the bloodless ones of the circus. If there were, then that became the business of all Romans, and it was a business which would have occupied him from daylight until the light began to fall. Here we see another effect from the scarcity of artificial light amongst the ancients. These magnificent shows went on by daylight, but how incomparably greater would have been the splendor by lamplight! What a gigantic conception! 80,000 human faces, all revealed under one blaze of lamplight. Lord Bacon saw the mighty advantage of candlelight for the pomps and glories of this world. But the poverty of the earth was the ultimate cause that the pagan shows proceeded by day. Not that the masters of the world, who rained Arabian odors and perfumed waters of the most costly description from 1,000 fountains, simply to cool the summer heats, would have regarded the expense of light, cedar, and other odorous woods burning upon vast altars, together with every variety of fragrant torch, would have created light enough to shed a new day over the distant Adriatic. However, as there are no public spectacles, we will suppose, and the courts or political meetings, if not closed altogether by superstition, would at any rate be closed in the ordinary course by 12 or 1 o'clock. Nothing remains for him to do before returning home, except perhaps to attend the palestra, or some public recitation of a poem written by a friend, but in any case to attend the public baths. For these the time varied, and many people have thought it tyrannical in some of the Caesars that they imposed restraints on the time open for the baths. Some, for instance, would not suffer them to open at all before 2, and in any case, if you were later than 4 or 5 in summer, you would have to pay a fine which most effectually cleaned out the baths of all riffraff, since it was a sum that John Queries could not have produced to save his life. But it should be considered that the emperor was the steward of the public resources for maintaining the baths in fuel, oil, attendance, repairs. We are prepared to show, on a fitting occasion, that every fourth person (footnote to follow) amongst the citizens bathed daily, and non-citizens, of course, paid an extra sum. Footnote: that boys in the praetexta did not bathe in the public baths is certain, and most unquestionably that is the meaning of the expression in Juvenal so much disputed, nisi quae nondum avere lavantur. By ace he means the ahenum, common name for the public bath, which was made of copper. In our navy, the coppers is a name for the boilers. Nobody believes in such tales except children, is the meaning. This one exclusion cut off 3/8 of Roman males. Now, the population of Rome was far larger than has ever been hinted at except by Lipsius. But certain it is that during the long peace of the first Caesars, and after the Annonaria Prorisio, that great pledge of popularity to a Roman prince, had been increased by the corn tribute from the Nile, the Roman population took an immense lurch ahead. The subsequent increase of baths, whilst no old ones were neglected, proves that decisively. And as citizenship expanded by means of the easy terms on which it could be had, so did the bathers multiply. The population of Rome in the century after Augustus was far greater than during that era, and this, still acting as a vortex to the rest of the world, may have been one great motive with Constantine for transferring the capital eastwards. In reality, for breaking up one monster capital into 2 of more manageable dimensions. 2 o'clock was often the earliest hour at which the public baths were opened. But in Martial's time a man could go without blushing salva fronte at 11, though even then 2 o'clock was the meridian hour for the great uproar of splashing and swimming and larking in the endless baths of endless Rome. And now, at last, bathing finished, and the exercise of the palestra, and 2:30 or 3, our friend finds his way home, not again to leave it for that day. He is now a new man, refreshed, oiled with perfumes, his dust washed off by hot water, and ready for enjoyment. These were the things that determined the time for dinner. Had there been no other proof that coena was the Roman dinner, This is an ample one. Now first the Roman was